Hello everybody, Walter here. Welcome to this episode of my Oxygen Not Included Let's Play series with the Spaced Out DLC, and also the first episode with my new microphone. In the previous episode, we pretty much finished setting up our automated Draco Rangers, and we also managed to get all of the missing puzzle pieces required to finish with our kitchen with a walk-in freezer. It'll take a bit of work, but once done, rotting food should be a thing of the past. So let's jump back into our colony and let's get started. And here we are. So first things first, let's have a look at the current state of our Draco Ranches. As you can see, the first few Dracos are in there, it's running quite nicely, and our Rancher is already putting it to work. But it's still missing some more hydrogen pressure, which is being slowly rectified with this pipe here, which connects to our electrolyzer setup at the top of the base. And we also need to work a bit more on the temperatures. The top is still a bit too hot, and the bottom is still a bit too cold. And that's where I would like to make my first change for today, which is just adding a few temp shift plates out of granite down here, just so we get a better heat transfer from the space heaters down to this area here, since chlorine is not really good at transmitting heat. At the top, I'm instead just going to place a temp shift plate out of ice, and that should help quite nicely with cooling all of this down. I'm also, while I'm here, disabling the harvesting, since this is all supposed to be food for my Dracos and not for my dupes. And now with that running in the background, we can fully concentrate on our kitchen setup. So the first thing I want to place are two carpeted tiles here and here, because later on, once I have my water log in there, it will be pretty tricky to get these replaced without destroying the log, so I'm doing this right now. I'm also going to need to add a few more tiles around the place, then a ladder there, and I'm also going to split the pedestal here into two, since I'm actually going to use different types of liquids for these two liquid logs in there. And with everything in place, it's time to start putting in the correct liquids. We are going to start, as shown in the previous episode, with salt water. This should be just inside of this area here. And then I'm just putting a layer of glued water on top and then normal water on top of that. Just like this here. If you want to know how I did this just now using the pedestal, I would recommend watching the previous episode. I did it in there and showed it in great detail. Now I just need to mop this up, which is also the reason I needed the tile a bit earlier here. And now you can see we have the beginnings of our water log in there. Now we just need to add one more there. This one at the top can be replaced later on, but it's not very important right now. And now we need to work on actually, this also needs to be deconstructed, and we need to work on actually getting the two liquids I want to use for this liquid log here. Usually I would go with, for example, oil and petroleum, since I need something that can handle up to minus 20 degrees or even more, which is the reason I can't use water. But it doesn't work this way here. So I'm going to go with two liquids I can actually get from ranching. The first is plastic, which I can melt into naphtha. And for that, I'm going to need this Draco up here. So let's quickly get up to that Draco. And let's collect it. And also let's make sure it's put into our Fluxomatic here. So the Draco is put in there and then should be turned into a glossy Draco in just a moment. And here comes the Draco, which should in just a moment be turned into a glossy Draco. Yes, we have a glossy Draco. Let's wrangle that one. Let's sure Dracos are no longer put in there. And then let's make sure the Draco finds a place over in this Draco ranch here. And we can also go with a mixed one over here. But for now, my normal Dracos will have to remain in this area here, since here we are still heating up the atmosphere, which will still take a little while. Now, while this is going on, we can start working on a way to turn the plastic we get from shearing a glossy Draco into naphtha, which is the liquid we are actually looking for. And fortunately, we have a handy source of heat in form of this igneous rock here. So all I need is a little area where I can easily heat up some plastic. And for that, I'm just going to add a little chamber here. Maybe something like that. And then I'm going to need a water log. Yeah, that is going to work. Now for this to work properly, I'm going to need a water lock with a lot of water in there, because this will be a rather hot liquid, and I don't want just a droplet of water then evaporating and then this entire system be again no longer being evacuated. But before that, let's look if we can find another dupe potentially for our base. So cooking not really, digging not really, farming, ranching, building. Green thumb. That's pretty much exactly what I'm looking for currently. We are going to get a lot of critters pretty soon. So we are definitely going to need another rancher. So Lindsay is definitely what we are going for. And we have now all of our private bedrooms full, so we should at some point think about an expansion here. Anyway, she's in schedule 1 that, or shift 1 that fits, and then let's have a look at the priorities. Obviously farming and ranching. And for now also some operating on the side, just so that we always have at least those two here filled in and everything properly powered. Skills I mustn't forget about. So Lindsay gets improved farming because she's going to be a rancher pretty soon. So that's working, but I was currently about building this part down here. As I said, this liquid will be rather hot. I might actually want to place some non-insulated tiles down here, so I get a bit of heat exchange and I can cool down what I'm putting in here that way. That might work. So I'm also going to need some water in here, and I can't use polluted water, I need normal water for that. And currently I don't have any water in there, so let's go over to this side and let's just place a pitcher pump here. Then obviously the rest here needs to be built too, and that way we should be able to fill this here up to maybe this level here with water. And we actually have our first glossy draglet egg. So let's go up here and let's make sure that actually gets incubated in here, for example. So glossy draglet. And let's make sure the stone hatchling egg is put back into storage. It can actually be evolved into some meat properly. So we also have now our first bit of plastic, which is very nice and will become useful as soon as this water lock here is filled properly. And after a mere eternity, now there is enough water in there, so let's get rid of this and let's put in this last tile here. And now we need, once this is placed, to evacuate this entire thing. So let's grab a gas pump, let's put it in there, just to the outside. And it obviously needs some power, so where is the nearest power grid? Over there. Nice. And now we just need until we have a nice little vacuum there, then we can get rid of this part again, and then we can finally get to melting some plastic. This looks much better already. Let's just make sure all of this garbage is moved out, and we can now get rid of these insulated tiles, although we won't be able to actually reach that at the top there. And we are also going to get rid of this abyssal light there. Let's just make sure this is all done with the appropriate priority. And we can also already put our pitcher pump in here, at least once this tile up there has been removed. Very nice. And this is the reason we needed the vacuum in here. Wait, this needs to be done out of ceramic, because as I said, this will be a rather hot liquid that is coming down here, and we need to make sure that we don't overheat our pitcher pump that quickly. So that is done. Now we are putting in our plastic tile. We have just enough for one of those, and once that is done, we shouldn't have to wait for too long until we have our first liquid for the second liquid lock for our kitchen. And there it is coming. And any moment now you will see the tile getting hotter and hotter and hotter until it reaches, come on, yeah, a hot enough temperature to turn into liquid naphtha. And now I have some naphtha. And we also have something to select, so let's have a quick look. Yeah, plastic. Always a good idea to have some more plastic. I can't fit any more tubes currently into my bedroom, so I'm going with some copper. It's always a good idea to have. And now we can already start filling in the first liquid, which is, as I already said, liquid naphtha. Highest priority. And while we're here, let's actually make sure there are no other liquids in here which could cause some issues. So that shouldn't be taking too long. Now we need to get our second liquid for the liquid lock, and that will be ethanol. For that, I'm first going to get rid of this oak shell here. And with that, we have now an oak shell mold, which can be turned directly into lumber if we go to our rock crusher. And then we can take on that lumber and put it into an ethanol distiller. It's then turned into ethanol. The ethanol distiller needs power, and it obviously needs an output. And in this case, I'm just going with a liquid vent to the side, then a pitcher pump next to that, and then just some tiles so the ethanol doesn't go all over the place. And once this setup here is been built, we should be getting our first bit of ethanol pretty soon. Just like in this here. So we have now our ethanol, which is quite nicely in there. And with that, we can go up here and finish our water lock, or well, liquid lock. So first things first, liquid naphtha needs to be replaced with ethanol. The naphtha needs to be emptied out. This should happen any second now. So we have our liquid naphtha in there. Then we just need to remove the ethanol and empty that one out. And any second now, we should now have our second liquid lock at least basically done. So let's quickly mop that up. Now, next on the agenda is the cooling system. For this, I'm actually going to go with 2 Resvert. So let's see, where can I get 2 rather easily? Let's just dig through here. And oh, there's already one down there. So I'm only going to have to dig those tiles out. Yeah, that should work. That's looking good. Okay, now we are going to need once more natural tiles, and I'm going to use the trick with the manual airlocks once more. Just instead of just 1, I'm going with 2 in this case. Just like in this here. Now, next step is cleaning up this entire thing and making space for a storage bin and for a critter drop-off. So let's just, for example, place a few tiles like so. We're also going to need a way in. So a pneumatic door. And then just a critter drop-off in here. And of course the 2 Resvert seats. Nice priority, of course. And anyone coming around? Yeah, probably is about to build this. And once I have my critter drop-off in there, I'm just going to make sure I'm getting a cuddle pip in there, just like this here. And it's already placed in the first of our 2 Resvert. Now it's just waiting until I have my second in there, then I can get rid of the cuddle pip. And after that I can start filling in the rest of this freezer setup. With these 2 now in place, it's time to, well, clean up the area, but we are also going to need to enclose the area, first with a metal tile here, and then some insulated tiles at the top and the bottom. And this one here I'm leaving open for now because I need to fill this with some hydrogen, as I already showed you in previous examples. So let's just go up here. Let's just add some ladders to the side so my tubes can actually reach everywhere easily. And this one here also needs to go. You're also going to need some of the hydrogen, which is coming from the top there. So all I'm going to do is just run a pipe all the way over here, then down there, and this will be to the point where I'm going to place the gas vent. And yeah, that's looking already quite a bit better. Now, once all of this is built, I'm just going to have to wait until I have a nice pressurized atmosphere of hydrogen in here, and then I can start enclosing this area here with insulated tiles. Just like this here, just a bit of final cleanup, but as you can see here, we have a nicely pressurized hydrogen in there, so we can start filling in the rest of the inside. while this is already starting to cool down quite a bit. So for that, first we're going to need a mechanized airlock, which is going to be placed here. And then below that we need 2 metal tiles. We're also going to need a thermosensor, and we're going to place it here and directly connecting it to the mechanized airlock. I'm also going to hook it up to some power, just because I can, and I don't like those warning messages there. So that's pretty simple and straightforward. We are also going to need a temp shift plate, and I'm actually considering using diamond for that. It's absolutely overkill, but I have it, and why not? Makes the entire thing look a bit nicer to my dupes. So now we need to worry about our airlocks here. So the first thing I need is actually a block on top of this here. So I'm going to place another metal tile here. On top of that we need an insulated tile, and while I'm here, another insulated tile up there. This one here, actually I don't need to make out of ceramic anymore. This is only the part here that can get really cold, but up there we will have a vacuum in here, so that won't be an issue at all. So this is all being insulated. We are still going to have to put another 2 tiles up in those spaces. And we are also going to have to place another tile up here, although this could be, for example, another carpeted tile, since now we are in an area where we don't have to worry about insulation anymore, and this looks much, much better. So once that is placed, we can get rid of these 2, and then we can start working our way down here. So important, from the top to the bottom, and now we should have a nice little vacuum in here, and our walk-in freezer is pretty much done, except we still need to evacuate the entire thing, and I totally forgot about this part actually. So let's just for now remove those 2 so I can fit in my gas pump. I hope it's not, yeah, of course it's running into that issue, but I can just set this to the other side and then it works too. So I'm going to need to evacuate this, obviously just running the pipe up there and connecting everything. It should actually already be powered, yep. So we don't have to worry about this. And now let's have a quick look. Another pipsqueak, always appreciated. And once we have a vacuum in there, I can get rid of the pump, replace my 2 metal tiles, and then I need to get some chlorine in there. And that shouldn't take too long actually, because I already have quite a bit of chlorine at the bottom of my base. I will have to do something about all of this pretty soon, but for now it's a good reservoir for, well, chlorine. So I'm just going to place a pump, let's say here. I'm going to use a gas filter, put it up there, and just connecting the 2, and then I'm running this all the way up here, and then I'm just going straight over up with a gas vent. I'm going to need another gas vent down there, hooking everything up. I'm going to need some power, obviously, connecting this, also the gas filter, and I only want chlorine gas, so that's also looking quite nice. We have our vacuum, so let's quickly get rid of that pump at the top here. Let's just make sure this is removed before the new stuff is put in. And once all of this is cleared out, I can, as I said, replace my metal tiles. And then the walk-in freezer is essentially finished. All that's left is waiting for the V-Sword to cool down. Although I have an idea how to make this a bit faster. So I'm just going to remove this metal insulated tile for now. Maybe putting 2 to the sides, and then I'm just going to place some ice in the form of a temp shift plate right on top of it, just to get a bit more cooling in there, so these here don't need to start at 17 degrees but around 0 degrees. And I just noticed I even have some polluted ice lying around, so let's use that instead, since it tends to be a bit colder than well, the normal ice. So we should be even a tiny bit faster if we set it like this here. So come anyone. Okay, it's being moved over. Wouldn't take too long. While this is all going on, we can start cleaning out all of this garbage here. And we are getting our first chlorine in here. I want at least the full 2 kilograms per tile, so even if anything rots in here, I won't have it off-gassing and producing polluted oxygen in here. So I'm going to have to wait for the full pressure, although I think there's already enough in the pipe, so that should be sufficient. I can also start getting rid of this setup at the bottom here. And now I just have to wait until all of this has been moved in here. You can see already a total of 2 kilograms are in there, so this is already working quite nicely. So we can get rid of all of this pipe. And also the vent. And we are at minus 18 degrees, so this should now very quickly cool down quite a bit. We also need to set this temp sensor still, so this should be turned on if we are below minus 20 degrees. If we are above that, this here connects temporarily this metal tile with these metal tiles here, so you can see this one here is somewhat heating up. These here are cooling down quite fast, and the chlorine is also cooling down quite fast. And pretty soon we should be at a temperature we can work with. And yeah, that's pretty much all that's left to do in this setup for the freezer. Obviously, once we have a temperature reached that is low enough, we'll have to get rid of this polluted water, and we still have to clean up this area over here. So apparently it doesn't help putting a refrigerator into a non-normal atmosphere. The refrigerator normalizes the atmosphere, so this here was pretty much for naught. But we can now start completely enclosing this area here with nicely looking carpeted tiles. That way my dupes get a bit more of a moral bonus potentially. And we can also start closing up the side here. So just making sure that we are getting some heat or atmosphere exchange in this area and don't get, well, here we have for example some caught hydrogen, but we can't really do anything. I'm still missing a few parts for this to be optimal. So on the furniture, I'm going to get myself a ceiling light, and I'm going with the standard one. I'm also going to add, well, let's make it also out of gold. And that way, this one here gets to light up this working space, and then my tubes will be a bit more efficient when, well, working. Let's also add one over here, just because we can. It will always need some power, so let's add that to the side here. And we can still fit one more building in here, and that is the spice grinder. This is the spice grinder. No, it doesn't need any power. And with that, we should actually have a functional kitchen pretty soon. At least I think so. What is stopping it from becoming a kitchen? Ah, now it's a kitchen. Okay, perfect. Now we have a functional kitchen. And wait, look at that. Why is no one building this? Unreachable still? That's a bit annoying. So I have to get rid of that temporarily and then place a ladder over here, just so it's being built. And once that has been rectified, yeah, now it's working, and now I can set this back into its original state. Perfect. I'll actually add one more temp shift plate here on the inside, since it's taking absolute ages for the chlorine at the bottom here to cool down to the same temperature as the chlorine at the top, so that should rectify the situation. Even if now I'm also having this insulated tile in the vicinity of the temp shift plate, which will take a little while to actually get cooled down to the proper temperature. Also found some more polluted ice, so this is now getting cooled down again. And now it's just waiting until, well, all of this here has been built and cooled down, and also these refloat here will also take a little while until they themselves have cooldown since they have a very high body mass. But yeah, this is already looking quite a bit better. Although you can see the jump with the insulated tile here now exchanging heat with the surrounding. But that shouldn't take too long. So now we can actually move the edibles over. I'm just going to leave the medicine in there. And yeah, now we have an infinite storage in a sterile atmosphere for our food. Next, let's get rid of this water at the top here. It's already warmed up quite a bit and no longer really helps with cooling down the area. So I'm just going to leave it right here. And we can also get rid of that. And next I could work on the private bedrooms, but I don't have enough plastic yet, so I'm going to do something entirely different. And that is at the bottom here, we have the gold volcanoes. And quite a bit of gold at the bottom already collected, and I want that gold. So first things first, I need to dig down to the area below it. But before I can do that, let's actually have a look what we can print. I don't have much space for dupes right now, so let's go for that, even if we don't really need it right now. And as I said, now it's time to start digging a bit down until I have a nice water area or water pool right below this area here. One minor update on the situation. My dupes were spending way too much time getting out of the dump of unbreathable gases here at the bottom. So I decided to rectify this by placing a pump here, which, if you look here, is set up to first detect if oxygen is on top of it. And if that is not the case, then after 5 seconds the pump will turn on. The delay is set there so that if I'm just getting a little package of, for example, carbon dioxide coming around and it gets in front of the gas sensor, the pump isn't turned on and off all the time, so it's a bit more stable. All of this gas is being moved over into this storage here. I will have a better solution for later, but this is just an intermediary solution to get my dupes ready to actually get digging down here without suffocating all the time. My dupes are really taking their time. On the upside, we actually found the bottom of the map, which is pretty shallow, which I think means that we don't have to dig much further up until we get to space. And I really hope that the entire thing is much wider than high. Or this is a rather small map actually. Another thing I noticed is we now finally have the proper gas mixtures in here. Although those could actually do with just a tiny bit more hydrogen in there. So I'm going to use a little trick to overpressurize the entire system. Let's actually go higher with the priority. And I'm just going around and making a little loop, which once I deconstruct the entire thing, will mean that I get just that tiny amount more material in there. So now I'm just going to cut this off here and here, making sure the loop is completely filled up. And once that is done, all I need to do is delete those here, and then well, this whole thing here will be filled in with hydrogen. We are also getting close to the proper temperatures, so I can start putting in my triggers in these two ranges here. Obviously 8 in total, high priority. And now I can actually make sure that here I will only have the glossy triggers in. Because this is already getting quite full. And we are still getting some more down here. And why is that not being wrangled? I thought I had them all. Okay. So that it should look quite nice. How many? Let's have a look. We have 8 Pacus in here, plus another 3 up there. We definitely need to also consider building another one. And we have high stress. Beam primary. Yeah, of course. My diggers and builders are always wet, and that produces a lot of stress. So we'll have to very quickly do something, or they will get stressed to 100%, and that's not something we would like. I'm going to need a message table. Let's go with 2. Connecting this up. And yeah, making sure just this is built right now. The bottom is pretty much done, I think. So let's disconnect this here. And we can get rid of pipes, these pipes, and the vent. With that, the bottom is pretty much done, besides getting heated up, although I think, yeah, I'll leave those in for just a moment still, and once this is heated up properly, I'll come back and replace them with the shearing stations. So, how is it looking down here? Yeah, we are getting there slowly but surely. I think now I'll just build a little copy of my Pacus farm up here, just to ensure that my future Pacus won't actually get put in here, since there are still a few around, I think. Yeah, there for example. And I don't want to overcrowd them too much, or this whole system here will be for naught essentially. So, the bottom is done. We can also get rid, I think, of this one here. So, how do I want to do this? I have to make sure that I don't accidentally get some gases in here. Especially not the hydrogen, which is a good gas when it comes to distributing heat. And I don't want anything distributing heat in here. So that needs to be done. Those need to be deleted. And altogether with a correspondingly high priority. And how are you looking? Yeah, Ruby is being messaged. And her stress is going down. Very, very nice. But as I said, now I'm just going to build a carbon copy of this here, except for this pneumatic door here. I will just cut this off at the top. And we are finally done with our second Pacus ranch. It's set up properly, so now when we find any more Pacus, they will be put in here instead of the top. In the intermediate time, the temperatures here were raised high enough, so I was able to put in some shearing stations, which were already put to use, as you can see there. Also, at the bottom of the base, the digging is going quite nicely, but this is still going to take a little while. And looking at the clock, I think this is a good point to stop with this episode here. So let's quickly recap what we managed in this episode. We finished our setup for our Draco ranges completely now with the proper atmosphere and temperatures. We added a second Pacus range. We also, and that's where we spent the most of our time, finally finished our kitchen, which we started quite a few episodes ago, with the walk-in freezer, now at the proper working temperature, and able to contain an infinite amount of food for now. And that brings us to the end of this episode here. Now, while we didn't get any new achievements this time, we did manage to round out our base with some quite badly needed infrastructure and are currently working our way towards some shiny gold. But that's something for next time. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I wish you all a nice day and, well, see ya!